Flower Bar, and if you're watching this, it's probably because you sent or received a plant project, which is part of our quarantine collection. So right now I have the Sonoran, which is our desert garden or COVID sucks, because there's a lot of succulents in this one. So I'm gonna go through what's in it. You're gonna have a pair of gloves, gardening gloves, but you never know, you might need them. They're useful. You're gonna get a bag of rocks. Yep, you just paid to send rocks. It's funny. Cactus soil, which this is important. It's not like potting soil. It's not like gardening soil. So I'll go over why we use cactus soil. You're gonna have a cool little piece of a Cholla branch, which is a cactus skeleton basically. And then you're going to have a sea of succulents and cacti. Some will definitely be cacti, so be careful when you reach your hand in here. And then you'll get this really cool concrete vessel container. All right, so here's your cactus soil. We use a mix that's made by a local nursery here in Arizona. Cactus soil is really well draining soil. It doesn't hold moisture. Cactus like to dry out. They live in the desert, so you don't want to put them in regular potting soil. So make sure if you go to like a home improvement store or your local nursery, you can get all of these things. Just make sure you get a cactus or a palm soil and not a garden or a potting soil. Rocks you can find, they just use like a small pebble. So you're gonna take the rocks and you're gonna put like a solid layer on the bottom of this vessel because it's pretty deep. So you're gonna wanna fill that up. The reason you do this is there's not a hole in the bottom of this container, so there's no drainage. So what we're doing is we're creating a layer of drainage that in the event you overwater your succulents and cacti, which you're not going to do because we're gonna go over how much you should water these things. But if you do, the water will go into this layer of rocks and it won't sit in the soil. And so your cacti and succulents won't develop root rot. Next, you're gonna take some of your cactus soil and you're just gonna put a layer, probably 3 inches thick of your cactus soil into your vessel. And you just wanna think, like you can see how big these little containers are. So if you don't have soil up to the bottom of those containers, they're just gonna get lost in the vessel. So make sure you put a good amount of the cactus soil in here. You're practically going to fill the vessel with this. So now that you have a good layer of cactus soil, you can see if I take my little succulents and I set them in here on top of the soil, still in their container, they sit almost at the top. So that's about as much cactus soil as I need. And I'm probably gonna need a little bit more to fill in. So the fun part about this right now is you can kind of play around with where you want your cactus and succulents to be in your garden. So you can, if you want this blooming guy to be in the center, or if you want him off to the side, you can kind of place things around and see who you think wants to be friends, roommates, buddies. I really like things a little bit off kilter or asymmetrical. Some people like things really balanced. It's totally up to you. It's just an aesthetic thing, what you like together. There's no right or wrong, so don't be afraid. Okay, I think I like these guys where they are. So then once I have an idea of where I want them, I'm gonna take them out and I'm gonna set these guys off to the side because I probably will need them to fill in spaces that I don't know about yet. So I'm gonna start in the center and work your way out. It's a lot easier if you plant the center ones because then you're not reaching over everything. So I'm gonna start with this cacti guy. The only thing you will need that's not included in the package is a pair of household scissors. People always ask us, like, how do you get a cactus out of the container without literally grabbing the cactus? So you're just gonna cut down the side And you want to cut it like 6 and 12, basically, if you think of it like a clock. Plants are way more durable than we think, so don't be afraid. But then this little, like the container just opens up and you can literally just grab him right out of there and you never, ever, ever touch the cactus or get thorns in your hand. So that's a win. So I'm gonna place him right in the center, a little bit off the center, and that's where he's gonna go. And then I'm just gonna start working around the sides, putting these in. When it's not a cactus and it is a succulent, you can just kind of pinch or squeeze the bottom and the succulent will just kind of like fall out. And if you find that he's sitting, or like if you find that one of them is sitting too low, you can always add in a little bit more soil underneath to kind of prop them up. And while you're planting, you just want to keep tucking soil in and around each little succulent, being aware that there is a cactus in the middle. So try not to poke that guy. This is a fun little opportunity too, where we have our terrarium tools. It's a little add-on if you want to do that. These guys, I think they're fun. They make you feel kind of fancy and they're just really cute. You can use them to dust off the container or dust off the succulents as you're working, to use the back end and to pack or tighten the soil in around the plants is great. Also, there's a cool little wood pair of tweezers that if you want to get a cacti out, you can open these guys up and do that as well. So I'm just gonna keep opening these guys up and placing them around my little cactus. Succulents are really cool, and cacti, because they're called the camels of the desert. So as such, they don't need a ton of water. They hold water in all of their petals or fronds. So that's why they feel really like plump or thick or hard, is because that's where they're holding all of their water. They don't have a really deep root system. They have pretty shallow roots and they're really slow growing. So you have to be kind of patient when it comes to growing cacti and succulents, because they're not like super fast growers. So you can see that I had put these all in and I was like, wow, it takes up all this space, but the containers are a lot more bulky than the plants. So now I'm gonna go and fill in with the other ones that I have. When you're doing this, you might notice that a couple of the succulents have this kind of like white film on them. And when you touch them, it smudges or it kind of goes away. That's essentially like a sunscreen, because these are in such hot desert climates that they have a natural sunscreen to protect themselves. So if you rub it off, it's okay. It'll come back. It's like a natural succulent sunscreen. So now's like a really good opportunity or moment for the cool terrarium tools, because there's like this little shovelly guy. So he's handy because you can kind of get the dirt or the soil in between the plants where you really need it and you don't make a huge mess. So you just want to take these and start filling in the soil as much as possible. And it's so crazy with these desert terrariums and these gardens. They're like black holes for just eating soil. Like you keep putting it in and you tap it and you pack it in there and it just keeps falling in. So this part kind of takes a while and you just have to be patient, and there's a ton of cactus soil. So just make sure that you're tapping and keeping everything really secure, making sure everything's really upright and surrounded by the soil. If something's like tipping over or wobbling, just keep adding the cactus soil around it. The nice thing too about having the little terrarium set is if you get soil in the succulents, you can go and like dust it. It's really kind of therapeutic, and like if you're OCD, it's really nice because you can have these like perfectly clean succulents, but not necessary. Just, you know, you don't have anything better to do. Why not dust your succulents? the soil all the way to the lip of the container. You want to leave a little edge so that when you do water these, the water doesn't just overflow. With the succulent gardens and the Sonoran plant project, however you want to call this, you only want to water these once a month. Seriously, write it down, once a month. Put a reminder in your phone. Don't water these more than that. They won't be happy. Succulents like to dry out. So if you are like the hovering plant parent, put this somewhere where you'll forget about it, because if you overwater them, they'll get root rot and then they will just turn into goo. We have a lot of people who come into the studio and they say they can never grow succulents. They have the worst luck with them. And when we talk with them, we find that they're like, oh yeah, it looks totally pretty, looks great, super happy. And then all of a sudden one day it just fell apart. And when they lift it up, the bottom's like yellow and mushy. That's root rot. You can underwater these and they'll come back up, but if you overwater them and they get root rot, you can't save them. So it's way better to err on the side of caution and underwater than overwater. So once a month, put it in your phone, reminder, water cactus, don't touch them again. So now that you got lectured on how much to not water this, you should have a cool little succulent garden that looks something like this, and you have this cool little Cholla branch. This one's kind of big, so you can lay them sideways or you can literally stick them in so it looks like a swirl cactus. You can just kind of like push this guy down in there. He's really tall. So you can break them in half, or you can cut them. They're pretty easy. They're just, it's like a dried twig. So you can kind of break them, and then you can put these little desert elements in there. So you can do your final little perfecting dust guy with the terrarium tool set, and then put this in a window where it gets bright indirect light. Don't put it in a west-facing window. In Arizona, we always say the west-facing sun is way too harsh on anything. It will melt the succulents in the summer. If you were to put this outside, you could do it 9 months of the year. You just can't have them outside in the summer. So hopefully you guys enjoyed making your little Sonoran plant project, and happy growing.